in a curious kind of ritual or practice. When two bikers approach, they make a signal or a sign to the other. Some just put their hands up on the handlebars. Is that normal? Something in my back. Anyways, this sign that some bikers just put their hand up over their handlebars. Others, wave quite emphatically. Some just nod. And others, and I like this practice the best, as they're driving, they just put their hand out by the side like this. It looks quite cool. Like you're doing this, but you don't want to be caught doing it. But interestingly, not all bikers participate in this practice. They're really tough looking, the mean kind of gangster, Hells Angels, Harley Davidson wannabes kind of with tattoos and black leather jackets. They don't wave back. It's as if they're telling you, well, you're not real bikers. But before the rest of us get too smug, there's another group that we don't wave to, and that's the people with scooters. And it's as if we're saying, you're not real bikers. But I get confused by it, so I wave to everybody. So this is one kind of acknowledgement or a sign, a signal that we give, or I've discovered. And this is another one. There's an acknowledgement that I give and receive when I'm out at I-Court. And I-Court is a facility in VGH for people with spinal cord injuries. And so when I'm walking around with my sticks and my awkward gait, and I go by a person in a wheelchair, most of the people out there are wheelchairs, or they may have sticks too. There's a kind of, how you doing? How's it going? Just a nod of the head and a greeting. And it's not something that I give to anybody else walking on the street. And there's just this feeling of, I know a bit about what you're going through, and we're in this together. And it's quite wonderful, actually. And then finally, there's the PAX, or the Kiss of Peace in our church. I say Kiss of Peace because that was how they did it way back when in ancient times, as maybe a secretive sign that we are Christians and you recognize each other today. And it's evolved over time. A lot of Anglican churches have the passing of the peace, now what it's called. And I'd like you to maybe try it just to see how it works. I wanted to preface it though with an experience, experience I heard about in an Anglican church where they were changing this or introducing it, and some people were a little put off by it. Well, anyway, one fellow got up out of his pew and turned around with open arms and said, "The peace of the Lord be with you." The fellow behind him put his hands on his chest and said, "Go to hell." And then the other guy said, "And also with you." So my friends in Christ, please stand. And this is an extension of coffee hour. No one needs to wander and get everybody. Just with the people next to you, just put out your hand and say, "The peace of the Lord be always with you." And also with you.
Welcome back.
Thanks, Lori. You did get them. And what's common in all of these is a sense of belonging to something, a relationship, but a belonging of the heart. And as an example of this, belonging, I think, in this context is different than being a member. For instance, I am a member of the Anglican Church of Canada. My diocese is the Diocese of New Westminster. That's where I have my license, and I'm on a leave of absence from the diocese, but I can still do services in the Anglican Church and so on. So that's where I'm a member. But over time, I've come to belong here. This is where I belong. This is where my heart is. Here with Lori and her gang of sacred misfits. But I want to use this experience of giving as a way of looking at the readings today, and also how it may inform our giving to God through the church. The 23rd Psalm that was read is full of so many profound and powerful images and saying, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. It's not surprising if we tend to gloss over the first two verses. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. These two verses use the relationship of the shepherd and the sheep to describe our relationship with God. And its experience of belonging and contentment that this belonging brings. It's as if, just this background of, in my morning meditations, I often use the 23rd Psalm as a mantra. It's a long mantra, but I use it, and I find my thoughts and feelings as they slow down tend to linger around these two verses, as if there's some truth or some treasure that's there to be realized. The great Gautama Buddha determined that human beings suffer because of their attachments, because of the way they covet, cling, and care about things. They crave the fleeting things of this world. In short, we want. In our own scriptures today, we get, or not in our scriptures today, but in places we see this idea echoed in words like, don't store up for yourself treasures on earth where moth can eat and rust can destroy. Or, what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? And what seems to be suggested here is that when we belong in God's keeping, as a sheep to a shepherd, our priorities somehow shift, and we no longer want as before. And in this way, our giving to God can be a sign of our belonging to God. Remembering those acknowledgments, the bike, the I-cord, and the other one, our giving can, when we put the offering into the plate, it can be a sign, a signal with God of the fact that we belong here with Him. In our own giving, I like to kiss the envelope. I think I've mentioned that. Lori said she kissed the donation envelope from us yesterday, so it's stuck there, so that's great. Well, I'm not suggesting you do that. That's a little smarmy, perhaps, but I encourage you in your giving. It's the one place in the service we do this, is that we in a tactile, obvious way, we give back to God a sign of our thanks, but also that experience, confirmation of that experience that we belong to Him and He belongs to us. This is a really important gesture to do, particularly for people like me. I'm so cheap. I was joking yesterday where I can sometimes make the old Ebenezer Scrooge look like Santa Claus. But when God is the recipient, my attitude changes. The Ebenezer Scrooge suddenly becomes more generous. Not only wants to give, or not, when I give without God in mind, I often try and give as little as I can. But when I give with God at the center, when I remember God, when I give, it makes me more generous. I want to give more and not less. So again, I commend you to invest your emotions, your heart into that practice. I know the offertory can seem just like a necessary inconvenience, but it can be one of the most powerful times in the service when we view our gift with our love and belonging with God. In the second text from John, the author talks about being in things. God is in Jesus, Jesus is in God, Jesus is in us, and we are in Jesus. It reminded me of the Star Wars quip about being one and so on. I don't know if you know of John Muir. He's a famous American naturalist, and he said this, and it's always stuck with me. He said, most people live on the world and not in it. I found that kind of curious at first, because how can you live below the surface of the hard earth? But I think what he was getting at is that most people live superficial lives, never experiencing the deep, secret, mysterious truths and insights that sometimes await us just below the surface. And I wanted to share with you a couple of experiences in my life of having that world that's below the surface manifest in my eyes. For instance, as a younger, I know I look so young now, but as a younger Anglican priest, I visited a lot of sick people, a lot of terminally ill people, and walked them to the gravesite. And I was sympathetic. As an observer, I was as sympathetic as I could be. And then I got sick with a degenerative, incurable disease, and my perceptions changed. I understood the world through the eyes of a lame, disabled patient. I understood what sick people go through in a way that I couldn't before. And while I wouldn't wish what I have on anybody, through it all, I think I've become a better person. Finding that world within and that different view of the world changed me, but changed me ironically in a positive way. Lori and I take Tai Chi, and one day a more experienced practitioner came up to me. He's kind of full of himself. He said, "Do you know what the word intention means?" And I said, "Yes," hoping he would go away. But then he said, "Well, you can wave your hands around if you like, and that's fine. But if you want to go deeper and you want to learn the profound truths of Tai Chi, invest your hands, your body, your heart with intention." I guess the focus is on intention. And Lori's going to demonstrate, because this really helped me with my Tai Chi. I did start to do it in a different way. Laura's going to show you the first way, waving hands. This is a move that's called waving hands like clouds. She's looking a little too good. Okay, that's the waving the hands around. So this is the same move without, with intention. That was really good. If the church thing doesn't work out, Laura, you might have a career in Tai Chi yoga. And then, but here again, I felt like I was in the world and not on it. I was doing something below the surface that wasn't immediately obvious, and it was wonderful. And then, one that you saw, I sing with my eyes closed. And I often feel embarrassed about that because it's not professional. But I do it. I seem just to automatically fall into that because by closing off the distractions, and I don't mean you, I mean the ego and wanting to be like and fearing failure and all that stuff. But when I close my eyes and just go into the music, my singing becomes intentional and it feels connected and right. And it's in the same way, I think, that God is in us and we are in God. Deep within, below the vanities, the veneers, the voices of the secular world, we belong when we find those places. And they may be different from all of us when we find our places into the world. The charities and ministries we give to are important, no doubt. But by signaling to God, a kiss, a wave, or just a thanksgiving, that this gift is made with Him in mind, I think we create that extra intention in our giving. In closing, the yoga that Lori and I have been taking is a very different type of exercise. There isn't a lot of movement. Rather, we are taught certain poses and breathing exercise that relax, that stretch, and align our bodies. And as our yoga teacher often explains, yoga is not a workout, it's a work-in. I'm still trying to figure that out. By contrast, when we give to God through the church, when we give with intention, it not only changes the outer world, but the inner world as well. And so our generosity becomes both a workout and a work-in.